Well, the stage is set for a thrilling finish to the four-match test series between Australia and India. India requiring a further 324 runs, while Australia need 10 wickets on the final day to win the fourth test at the Gabba and clinch the series 2-1. The Indians are set to resume on 4 without loss. Play set to start at 7:30 Eastern Caribbean time, 6:30 in Jamaica, live on SportsMax this evening. Rain, though, threatening to spoil the party in Brisbane on day 4. Rain wiped out almost all of the final session, meaning 23.1 of the scheduled overs were not bowled. And with rain in the forecast again for day 5, Australia may not have enough time to claim the victory needed to regain the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Here is a Ricardo Chambers roundup of another enthralling day's play.
Australia needing to win to retain the Border Gavaskar Trophy? The intent quite clear from the very first over of day 4. Openers David Warner and Marcus Harris driving their way to quick runs as they built on their overnight lead of 54.
Marcus Harris.
There was some luck involved.
Edge and again through.
The two left-handers sharing in an 89-run first wicket stand, but then quick runs turned into quick wickets, 4 of them in a 34-run span before lunch. First Harris for 38, then David Warner for 48. A desperate review unable to save the 34-year-old. Australia 2 for 92. Marnus Labuschagne helped himself to 25 from 22 deliveries. Siraj with his second of 5 wickets.
Edged and taken. This time a healthy edge for Mohammed Siraj.
And without a run added, Matthew Wade was taken down the leg side without scoring. The Aussies making it to lunch at 4 for 149. After the break, Steve Smith and Cameron Green continued to attack.
And away for Steve Smith.
They say fortune favours the brave, and Smith was certain that both brave and fortunate dropped in the deep 142 on his way to a 31st Test 50.
Pulled them out.
Smith tucks it round the corner. 50 for Stephen Smith off just 67 balls.
And again,
every single test match.
Dropped again. Siraj up his own bowling this time. It came back quickly.
It took a nasty one to get rid of the former captain for 55. The partnership with Cameron Green ending on 73, the second best of the innings. By then, the wear and tear of the fourth day surface was showing. Green eventually fell for 37.
He's having a field day here at the Gabba at second slip. Shardul Thakur.
Captain Payne 27, while his vice-captain Pat Cummins smashed around for 28. No doubt licking his chops from the non-striker's end as Mohammed Siraj completed his maiden test 5-wicket haul.
As a man on the third-man rope takes the catch. 5 wickets for Siraj. What a wonderful performance.
Australia all out for 294, India's target 328, to which Rohit Sharma started with a glorious cover drive.
Driven nicely by Sharma, takes on the wide full pitch delivery.
Before rain brought a premature end to the day's play. 324 to get on a pitch offering enough to provide just about any result, but with rain also in the air, you just never know what will happen next, like it has been for the duration of this enthralling series.
And more concern for the Aussies as left-arm pacer Mitchell Starc grabbed his hamstring during his only over of India's second innings before rain stopped play. Steve Smith, the batting star and former Aussie captain, had this to say about what appeared to be a problem for Mitchell Starc. I saw the same thing walking back. He was grabbing at his right hamstring, I think it was. So I'm sure he'll get assessed by the medical staff. One thing I know about Mitchell is that he's a tough guy and he's always played through some injuries before and got the job done. So he'll be hopefully good enough for tomorrow. Now, we are joined now by international cricket commentator Fazeer Mohammed as we examine the state of another riveting test match between Australia and India. Faz, we spoke all week last week about these resilient Indians, some of them so little experience in test cricket, but making the Aussies sweat out this one as they try to get a result that they badly need to reclaim the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
And yes, you're right, Lance. They really have exceeded expectations given the fact that they've been decimated by injuries. Essentially, their bowling attack, their frontline bowling attack, completely out of contention. Yet for all of that, they go into the final day with a fighting chance. And even if the batting struggles, there's always the prospect of the weather saving them. So at the moment, you'd have to say that the balance of both the play and the condition would suggest that India are on course to retain the Border Gavaskar Trophy.
Yeah, so let's look quickly at a couple of the successful bowlers in the Indian second innings. We had Mohammed Siraj and Thakur, who are pretty experienced in first-class cricket back at home and some T20s back at home, but internationally they are very, very short in experience. This is only Siraj's third test match, I think, and Thakur playing his second test match, but they had 5 and 4 wickets respectively. Great, wasn't it?
Excellent. And I think when you look at it, with players, 2 on debut, 2 with one test match piece, Siraj leading the attack with a grand total of 2 test matches. I mean, and to be able to be at this stage, look at that wicket that he just got. I think that's the line that the Aussies are going to try to have to bowl from ball 1 when play gets underway, where he got that wicket of Labuschagne. Touching down, just on or about off stump, the batsman has to play, let the wicket play a few tricks. We saw that late yesterday, a few keeping low, a few kicking off a length, and that's essentially what you want to do. And credit to Mohammed Siraj, credit to Shardul Thakur, credit to all the Indian bowlers, because you can see Washington Sundar presenting a threat when he was basically a net bowler up until being called in for this test match. So they've really responded, and I think that speaks not just to the level of competitiveness and the quality in Indian cricket, but coming into a winning setup, coming into an environment where you're expected, if not to dominate, you're expected to be there or thereabouts. And that's a huge difference, but from coming into a losing environment.
Yeah, how impressed have you been with Siraj in particular? Because I saw David Warner top scoring, but he edged one over, I think, second, slipped pretty early in his innings at a delivery that just rose sharply on him. I think the extra bounce was what undone Warner. Luckily for him, he wasn't caught at that point.
And we're learning so much about these players. I mean, Mohammed Siraj, when he made his test debut in the second match because of the injury to Mohammed Shami, he had only been in the game at the serious level for about 5 years. And look at the level of progress that he's made. He's nippy, he's skiddy, he's not extreme pace, but the line that he bowls, and again, because of Australian conditions, where he's able to really capitalize on whatever pace and bounce and seam movement that there is, he is very much a handful. And I think this is an encouragement for throughout the world to produce services that will encourage these types of bowlers and encourage attacking cricket, because you saw both teams playing their shots as well, especially that key 7th wicket partnership for India with Washington Sundar and Shardul Thakur on the third day. They really played their shots, took their chances, but that's all part of an exciting game.
Fazeer, is there enough on the board? And, well, with the rain in the mix, we don't know how much time is going to be left. But is there enough on the board for the Australian bowlers and fielders to not go and search for something? You know, the tendency to go and try to create chances. If they just approach the task of bowling out the Indians normally, will it happen, or is it more likely to happen if they go and try to create their own returns?
And I think that's why it's such a tantalizing prospect, because if the weather were to hold off, and that might be unlikely, it will create all of those possibilities that you're talking about, George. And I would think that the Australians, they won't want to panic. You don't want to go full blast and then a few outside edges run to the boundary, and suddenly you find yourself having to block off backward point or blocking up deep mid-wicket, because Rohit Sharma is going to play shots. And indeed, when he got off the mark late yesterday, everyone was saying what a glorious shot it was. Had he taken the outside edge because the bat was far away from pad, he would be pilloried for the same way that he was for his dismissal late in the first innings as well, late on the second day. So you'd 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And I think it's basically not getting too carried away with things, taking the game as it comes, not chasing the game necessarily, but letting it happen by doing the right things, the basic things, and just being a bit patient, because it could be a long day if the weather holds off.
Here's another 6 of one, half a dozen of the other question. Already in the Australian media, there are murmurs that Tim Paine took too long with the second innings, that the second innings should have been curtailed and India put in chasing a smaller total, giving the Aussie bowlers a fair chance of getting all 10 wickets, given the threat of rain that loomed even before the first ball was bowled in the test. Your perspective on that?
And if you live your life by the media, you're going to be going left, right, and center and spinning around
at the same time.
To the point, exactly, to the point where you don't even know where you are. You've got to be able to understand your limitations, the resources that you've got, the strength of the opposition, mindful of the weather. But there are some things you can't control. And if it is that Australia were to demolish India early on the final day, no one will talk about that issue with the rain and the timing of the declaration. If it is they run out of time with 8 or 7 wickets down, it's going to be a different story. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you try to satisfy the media, that's a recipe for chaos.
And you know the reason the media's word has carries so much weight, especially in Australia at cricket time, is because it's chock filled of so many champion former Test players whose words seem to be worth more than gold, perhaps platinum or some other expensive mineral. I put this to you though, Fazeer, that for Tim Payne, for a long time we've heard of Australia being a team that does everything to win. Fair and foul, we can say, based on their recent past, especially, not so long ago. They do everything to win. But those were champion Australian teams with a champion bowler. The captain could throw the ball to who could create something, and some of the best fielders that the Australia team over time would have had. This Australia team is slightly different, slightly more vulnerable, or perhaps more vulnerable than Australia teams of recent vintage. Does Tim Payne put it all on the line, everything, all or nothing, win or bust, to go for the win in this test, even if doing so can cause them to only draw the game and India goes back home with the trophy?
I think they've got to give everything. And it's not because of satisfying Shane Warne or anyone else, because the interesting thing about celebrity media when it comes to sport is that we always make a big song and dance when they're right, but we conveniently ignore the majority of times that they're wrong, simply because they are celebrities and we're expected to recognize when celebrities get it right. But again, I doubt very much if anyone in the Australian camp is in the least bit concerned with what Shane Warne, Alan Border, Adam Gilchrist, or Mark, or whoever, what they have to say. They'll probably pick apart if there's some sensible contribution, but basically hanging on the words of somebody who's not involved in it, that to me doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But again, I would think that Australia, they're desperate to win, not just because of all that is going on in the series, because that is their culture. They will go at it very, very hard. They'll bend the rules if necessary. They'll redraw the line if necessary, because that's what they do. But I expect them to come full blast from the first ball.
Fazeer will remain with us for the next segment when we talk West Indies against Bangladesh. Remember, your home of champions will have you covered for the Australia-India Test Series climax. Catch the final day's play starting at 6:30 this evening, 7:30 Eastern Caribbean time on SportsMax.
As we go to break, Manchester United, they kept their place atop the Premier League with a 0-0 draw at Anfield on Sunday. We're asking, was it a fair result? Send us a voice note and we'll pop that voice note in and play it later on in the show.